here. So we're gonna look at Washington's offense versus Michigan's defense, and so we'll start with the rushing offense versus the rushing defense. So, like we said before, 100th in the country for Washington, 8th in the country for Michigan, and we do have a situation, obviously, where Dylan Johnson, who I think did very well for them in the Texas game, is injured. He's supposed to play, but I worry that it's going to be like when Blake Corum played in the Ohio State game in 2022. He said he was playing. He played 2 snaps because he couldn't. He couldn't. I don't think that Johnson's going to be as much of a factor in this game. I give the decisive advantage, rush O versus D to Michigan in this one. What do you think, Tony?
I agree with you completely. Michigan's rushing defense is really good. The question is, can Washington's defense be good enough? Can Washington's rushing offense be good enough? They're not gonna be great, but can they be good enough that then Washington can do what they need to with, their nightmarish receivers and Michael Penix doing his like Archer move? The question is, can they be good enough? And I think we'll see.
So the backup is Will Nixon. So Will Nixon, kind of a hybrid running back wide receiver.
He's pretty good.
Redshirt sophomore, looks like. He's decent, but I don't know if he has that same big playability. So if Johnson's kind of limited, he's gonna have to play. Because I foresee a lot of Nixon, and Johnson's going to try, but when you get injured like that, and we saw what happened, a week is not enough time, and I do not think he's going to be anywhere close to 100%. And here we go with obviously the passing offense, and even though it's 1-2. You got to give it to Washington. Washington's passing offense is one of the best I've seen ever. It's really good. I think it might even be better than Ohio State 2022. Just with the ability of all three of them to make those plays. Whether it's Odunze, whether it's Polk, whether it's McMillan.
They're so scary good.
Odunze, Washington fans were telling me might even be better than MHJ. I don't know about that. That might be homerism a little. I think Martin Harrison Jr. is probably one of the best wide receivers we've seen in at least 3 years. He's that good, but because when he was out of the game, they looked like Iowa. So that's how much of an impact player he was. But number 1 in the country versus Michigan passing yards allowed, number 2. So could we see some interceptions from Will Johnson, Mikey Sanders, Rod Moore? I think he might be good for 1 or 2 interceptions, but I still give the advantage to Washington.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. And again, because Michigan runs the ball so well, they haven't had to. They're very much the opposite. They haven't had to be that good, but these guys are lethal, but they tend to be lethal in explosives. So the question, if you can stop the explosives or score enough that the explosives don't really matter. I'm sure they're watching a lot of that USC. Again, this is a team that scored 50 some points on USC and scored 9 points on Arizona, or 15 points in Arizona State, and one with a pick 6, or so there's a lot more inconsistency. If they're on, they're on. If they're not on, they're beatable. It reminds me so much of your game against TCU. It could be like your game against TCU, or it could be you just roll them.
Sorry, Erica, don't hate me. I was rooting for you guys all season. But yeah, that was the closest. Ohio State scored 3 points.
Can I give a personal message to our friend of the show, Erica?
Yes.
Ding dong, the witch is gone. Yep. There is a new era in Iowa offense, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Beth Gates, who did what no man could do in the state of Iowa.
Hell yeah.
And in her first year as an interim said, we're all done with this Brian Ferentz mess. Boom, fired his butt. Decisively, like there's like badass leadership case studies to be written about how Beth Gates fired Brian Ferentz. So Iowa fans, go Hawks. Herky has been avenged.
Absolutely. Yeah, great job. So just to wrap up on passing offense, I do think that whereas I think Michigan has a lot of paths, and we'll get to this later, Washington, like Penix has to be on it to win. Like really, like we're talking 400, 500 passing yards, lots of throwing. That's the path. That is the path. Michigan has like 6. Washington, Penix has to be pretty much
Perfect.
a baller, which, by the way, I think it's very possible that he will be, because of what we've seen so far. But that we'll kind of cover that more later. But definitely something to look at as far as the different pathways to victory. So, Tony, we do have Michigan offense versus Washington defense now, and so this one. I actually have a question mark and an exclamation mark here because I was a little surprised that Michigan had the advantage here. So Michigan has the 71st passing offense in the country because, as we know, they like to run the ball. But they do that. They have some great play action that they do to the tight ends, Colston Loveland. When Roman Wilson does get into it, he can run some great routes. He's taken a level up this year. Washington's passing yards allowed, I was absolutely like flummoxed at this. 120th in the country. One of the last in the country.
Part of that is because I think their defense is not as good as a lot of other people think. Part of that is because they played some outstanding teams in the Pac-12. They really did. I mean, you look at they didn't play Colorado this year, did they? I don't think so. I think they had Colorado off, but they played USC. They played Oregon twice. They played Cam Ward. There's a lot of those Pac-12 teams that don't get enough credit for being as good as they are. I mean, they just played Quinn Ewers. So they have played some outstanding quarterbacks that, I'll be honest, are a lot better than anybody you guys have played.
Yeah.
That's not a rip on Michigan. Just that Washington has played probably 6 quarterbacks who are better than anybody you guys played.
Yeah, because think who was probably the best, Talia, or Kyle McCord. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Kyle McCord, who just got bounced to Syracuse. Now that's not a rip because again, Michigan can stop people and does stop people. But looking at Washington has definitely been. Now, does that mean that they're more battle tested, or does that mean they're just not as good? Maybe both.
Absolutely. Calvin, the reason is because I was surprised. I didn't, and here's why. They go up against each other in practice, right? So Penix and the offense goes up against the defense in practice. So you would think that they would, have the ability to hone in. Okay, we have like literally one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So they had all year to practice against the best of the best, and they're 120th. And so I think that's like you would think that they'd be able to hone that a little bit more when you're going up against somebody like Michael Penix in practice. That's really why I was surprised. And it means as we get to the keys to the game, it means that there might need to be like a Purdue-esque or an approach where JJ is actually going to be slinging it a little bit. Which we've seen at times during Bama, at times during Ohio State, and then the early part of the season before he got injured. That may be a large part of the game plan to be able to beat Washington.
They can do it too.
Absolutely. So Michigan rushing offense, 61st in the country. Washington's rushing defense is actually not bad. According to the NCAA stats that I pulled. Advantage Washington with an asterisk. And I say this because of the eye test. I watched Texas run it down their throat They had a problem, especially in the C gap. I was looking at the
I
C gap.
watched USC running on them, and that's not a good state of affairs, my friends. It's not a good state of affairs.
So the numbers say Washington, but eye test is a little bit more dubious. When you have problems in the O line, like I said, I saw holes in the C gap often, but also just running up the middle to be able to just basically run at will. I think it was like 6.8 yards per carry. Michigan could get 8 yards per carry. If Texas can get 6.8, Michigan could get 8 with Blake Corum. So I'm giving it an asterisk.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Their defense is not good. Their defense is not that good. The question is will they be good enough? Will they be good enough to offset what they're able to do on offense? Maybe. I agree with you on that.
John, where are you getting these stats? So most of the stats are coming from the official NCAA composite. You can literally just Google NCAA football stats. There's drop down menu.
Stats.ncaa.org or .com or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's com. And you have the drop down where you can literally pull every single one for this. We also did get some from Pro Football Focus as well.
That NCAA site, you guys, if you're data dorks, is awesome. I randomly just pulled a baseball thing from there and made a silly slide on Twitter today, and it got just directly from the NCAA data, and it has 1,000 likes, 400,000 views or something. NCAA data is amazing. So you can just pull cool stuff from there, and people love it.
We got a couple more super chats. So sorry, Nick, I did miss this one. Forgive me. Penix on throws under pressure completes 44.4%. I believe JJ's 56 or somewhere in the high 50s. So that's interesting. So
you're both good.
Like I said, interior D line pressure and edge too, but interior D line because where you don't got to know where to go if that happens, and it happens quickly. Thank you, Nick, for that. Ryan, if Michigan can stay on schedule with the run game and the D can get key stops, that's game. Yeah. I mean, yeah, got to stop Penix at least a couple times or hold him to a field goal. So definitely spot on there.
Ryan, I think you're totally right on that.
And then Keith, $10. I'm on a crusade to establish potential vice talent. But Bama and Texas had far more potential. UM and UW have more on-field talent. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. And then we saw what happened. Yeah, they proved it on the field, and Bama and Texas had the stars. And, sometimes it works out that way. All right.
Well, the other thing I would add is those are two great games.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Any of those four teams could have won. There was no stomping in either of those games. So I think you were looking at four really great teams playing each other. I mean, I think if you could add Georgia, could have been another one, and could have done some similar things in there. And you really, at least I feel like Mizzou looked really good. So that there's a lot of these teams that could have been really good. And one of the things, like we talked about earlier, we're seeing a little more democratization of talent. I think it's good for the game, and both these teams have a lot of talent, and one of them is about to be the next national champion.
That's right. And it's very exciting. First time since either 91 or 97. And now we put it all together, Tony. Keys to the game and predictions. And so, like I said, I think Washington has literally won. If Penix absolutely just crushes it, goes for 500, and their defense
is good
does enough to just contain, maybe get a pick, maybe get just keep them to a couple of field goals. Michigan has staggered at times when faced, even with not so great defense. They sometimes will sputter and get off rhythm. So that to me is the one key for Washington. Is there one that I might be missing?
No, I mean, I think that's it. The question is for Washington, Their offense has to be lights out. They've got to get those explosive plays. They've got to have those, 60-yard touchdown passes that, Michigan can't stop. And their defense has to get stops. They need to get probably turnovers. I mean, this is a game I think turnovers are going to be key in. If you can get a couple of picks, grab a fumble, do whatever, turnovers could determine this game. But the question is, can Washington do lights out and be just good enough on defense to make it happen?
Sergeant Pickles. We got one of our
Sergeant Pickles, friend of the show, gets a dubs up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sergeant Pickles. I can't do it since I'm rooting for Michigan this time, but we always appreciate you supporting all of our different shows, and it really means a lot. If you have any other keys you want to add, feel free to post. But yeah, the one that I saw was just Washington's passing game, just absolutely crushing it. Meanwhile, Michigan's paths. So number one, the defense picking Penix off. That could be one.
Pick a couple of them off. You just need two.
Couple of picks. JJ could, Blake Corum could go for 250 rushing yards, not just up the middle, but off the perimeter. Zone read, like read options. They do a lot of split zone, things like that. I could see Donovan Edwards getting in, and not just the run game, but the pass game as a slot receiver, having both of them on the field. That could be a thing. You've got Roman Wilson, who's your deep ball threat. CJ Cornelius Johnson, who's more of a 10, 12-yard threat, occasionally can be a deep yard threat, but he's more used as a shorter threat. And then, of course, you've got Colston Loveland, who JJ trusts implicitly. Those two are in lock. So when JJ throws, Colston catches, and Colston's bailed us out of a couple of situations that I thought were going to go and end in a punt on third down, and they ended in a first down. Colston's been really clutch throughout the game. So use of tight ends. Tyler Morris, unsung hero, made a huge play against Bama, and obviously Tyler Morris and JJ played together in high school. So those two have the chemistry in terms of receiver ability. So there are quite a few. Basically, like, contain Penix enough, keep him to like 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and then use your run game. Milk the clock a little bit. Use your run game, play action to tight ends. And occasional deep shot. I'm giving this to Michigan, a big surprise, 34-23, because of the fact that I only see one path for Washington. I see like 6 or 7 for Michigan. The difference in all of these different aspects to me is just too much. And they have a week to tune up the things that they messed up on last week. 34-23. Tony, what's your take on Michigan's keys, and then just kind of your predictions?
So I agree with you on the keys of the game. The keys of the game are going to be winning the turnover margin. The keys to the game is going to be, can Washington do it? Can Washington keep that magical pixie dust going to win? Because they could. But at the same time, Michigan is probably their worst nightmare in a team that is so good on defense and so good on offense, but not relying on explosives. Just, very much a pound the ball up the way and go. So, the question is, can they have that magic keep going? It's possible. It's very, very possible. I am not putting down any money on this game. And maybe I'm a homer. Maybe it's because Coach Carr gave my dad's induction speech into the Coaches Hall of Fame. Maybe it's because when they would want to talk to my dad about like Wisconsin's tight ends, they would put me on the recruit list in Michigan, and I would go and stand there like pretend to be a recruit. Coaches would talk to my dad about game strategy. But this is a national championship game, and sorry, dogs, but hail to Michigan, the champions of the West once again. If I had to make a pick, I would say Michigan 34, Washington 31. Go Blue.
All right. So in your case, Washington would cover. In my case, Michigan would cover. So if you're doing betting,
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know
yeah.
what we're gonna see here because again, Michigan's defense is so good. And again, Washington, they have that magic. Can they keep that magic going? If nobody come. I'm not putting a dime on this game, so nobody come back and say, "Oh, you were wrong." Because I would say, don't bet on this game. Just enjoy this game.
People are going nuts. Extremely happy at your prediction.
Hey, I grew up in Midland.
I think they were on the
I
fence.
want to thank
people were like,
what's the? I want to thank Campus Corner. The Campus Corner store for serving, selling to me at like age 17. I want to thank the Sangria place right by South Quad, who would sell like pictures of sangria to 16-year-old me. I appreciate that. So I can't pick against that.
And we got, Kickin' Chicken, go blue. We always love Kickin' Chicken stopping by. Moose, friend of the program, Mod, great guy, follows recruiting. If you don't follow his Twitter, you should, because he gets into recruiting like few others. $5 super chat. John, the key is clock management. I don't think Wash can stop our run or pass game, and being on the sidelines is a disadvantage for Penix and Washington. Yeah,
huge
time of possession.
So again, that's what happened to the USC game is they just decided no one was actually. I think Washington made like 2 tackles, and so they won the game. Other than that, no tackles, just back and forth. 5-second drives pretty much, and I don't think Michigan's going to do that. And that defense that leaves the opportunity to create turnovers, to stall, to stop. Again, which is why if I'm not betting on this game, I'm not making an official prediction. But if I had to, I think Michigan finds a way to make it happen.
Well, I am doing official prediction 34-23. Michigan is going to get it done.
Hail to Michigan.
Hail.
That also, by the way, was the very first real song I learned to play on the trumpet. Much to my mother's dismay, you had to hear it.
Just to make it official, we're going to make a banner. There it is. Okay, because that way nobody can.
Nobody
can go.
Nobody can question it. There.
Keep it on. So Tony, we always appreciate you stopping by and doing all the things with Voice of College Football that you do.
Always.
So as I do for everybody that I talk to, final thought, and where could people find you on the internet?
What a great season. My final thought is I'm excited because as of now, USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon are in the Big Ten. Again, I grew up in Michigan. My dad played for Duffy. I think this is exciting and awesome. So you can find me, you guys just follow. You can find me on Twitter at TJ Altimore. Hit me up anytime, or here in the Voice of College Football community. Great to interact with you guys, and what a great season it's been, and looking forward to an even better one next year.